It's the Pat and JT podcast bonus episode. Bonus!
I'm loving these bonus episodes. Kind of makes me super happy. It really does. I know it's we're trying to do what we're doing is just kind of catching up with people, getting updates from people, small business owners, friends of the show, how everybody's weathering, and so far businesses. Surprise, obviously it's a tough time, but surprisingly, they're pivoting and they're finding new lines of revenue and they're surviving and doing well.
I'm going to say not just sometimes pivot. Sometimes it's like, it's bigger than that. It's like a full 180. Mm-hmm. It's not just a little bit off to the left or right.
Yeah.
Nebraska Small Business Development Center definitely has been involved in a lot of this, and Tony Schultz joining us. Good morning, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
How we doing?
Doing good. As we record this, I should say for anybody listening, we're recording in the morning, so yeah, the good morning doesn't really apply. But anyway, so how are you doing? This last few days had to have been a little hectic.
Yes, it's been very busy. We've had tons of people contacting us, seeking some guidance on the different resources that are available to them. So it's been very busy, but it's been very good too. So we've had a lot of good connections and been able to help a lot of people out. So it's been
awesome.
Been very productive.
I got to ask you, because I know just personally dealing with our bank, and we had a relationship with a banker. Because the PPP program in particular, trying to get that underway for a lot of small businesses, not a lot, but enough, obviously it's caused a ripple that they didn't have that relationship in place. And so I'm sure they're turning to you because they're looking for guidance in which way to go. Some people may feel like they're kind of like standing on the side, sidelines, watching things happen and wondering how to jump in.
Right. That's very true. It's interesting because there's a couple different options people can go, particularly if they're a sole proprietor or single person business, or maybe they're a 1099 contractor.
Yeah.
So, they're looking at, do I go with the PPP plan? Do I go with unemployment and then get transferred over to the pandemic employee assistance program? So one of the interesting things we learned, we had a call with the Department of Labor on our Entrepreneurs Education Collaborative webinar. And it was interesting that the person had to apply for unemployment as part of the process. They were rejected. They got a rejection letter, and then they were transferred over to the Pandemic Employee Assistance program. So it was interesting kind of learning that process. We had a lot of calls where people were like, well, which way do I go? And it's really dependent upon the business. And what their income levels look like, what they're used to for that. But that's been kind of an interesting question. And then a lot of questions of, can I do the PPP and the EIDL? And the answer is yes, but they can't do the funds for the same allocation. So if I'm going to allocate money from the EIDL towards, say, April payroll, I can't do the same with a PPP. I have to divide those expenses among different categories.
And for those, if you're wondering, and even if you're still trying to get into this and figuring out what's going on, the EIDL is the emergency fund, and the PPP is the paycheck protection program. Is that how that works?
Yeah, we're learning all the acronyms.
Yeah,
right. But the EIDL is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. And that one is administered through the Small Business Administration directly. So there's a web link that people can click on, and they can fill out an online form for that. And that's a loan program. The PPP is administered through the lenders. So they have to be an SBA certified lender. That's one of the requirements. And then they fill out an application with their lender. That's submitted in. And that program is actually administered through the banks themselves. So if they utilize those funds, 75% for payroll expenses for the 8-week period, and they maintain full staff, those are 100% forgivable.
That's amazing. So that's awesome.
Two very different programs there.
That's so great.
And people just need to be aware of how you can use them.
Now, the SBA loans themselves, this is something we were just talking with our banker about, the SBA loans that you had gotten in the recently or in the last year, that there actually is a program for those as well. Not deferring payments, but it's kind of a relief program.
That's right. They actually make the payment for you, principal and interest. And I believe it's 6 months. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's a 6-month time span where they actually cover your payments. So a lot of times, one of the first things we ask a client is, do you have a current SBA loan? And if you do, this is the program that's going to apply towards that loan.
That's
huge help.
It's
Huge
you know,
help.
I never even, if we weren't in this, small business owning this, wouldn't even be paying attention to how the government is really stepping up and helping young businesses. Businesses have been around for a while, just really helping the economy bounce back from this. It's pretty incredible. Have you ever seen anything like this before? Obviously not the pandemic, but this kind of assistance for small business.
Yeah, nothing along these lines. I mean, this is the largest package in terms of assistance in the history of the United States. So, I mean, it's unprecedented. And what's interesting is how these organizations are able to kind of pivot. So, they may run into challenges with applications or overload or things like that, and they're able to kind of pivot the system and account for that. So we're seeing a lot of adjustments and a lot of people doing things that they normally don't do and making it work to try to get that funding out to those small businesses.
And the help is what's crazy. Like we were mentioning before, some of these small businesses don't have that relationship with a bank. Like you're saying, you have to go through your lender when you're looking at the PPP program. Maybe they started their own small business and they didn't get a loan or whatever the case may be. And now how do we take advantage? And like you said, for some it's unemployment.
Yep.
And then you have to just kind of follow the plan, trust in the plan and roll with it. Cause I think it's new for the people that are helping you as well.
Yeah. And that's a good point too, is, that's another thing we ask is, do you have a commercial loan? Do you have an SBA loan? Do you have a good connection with a banker? And it's interesting because some of these businesses have been around so long. We had a business the other day that had been around for 20 plus years. And they said, well, I set up my business account 20 years ago and I never really needed to do anything with a banker. We didn't have a loan. We didn't have any kind of financing. So
Wow.
it was a struggle for them to try to find the resource they needed and connection. And that's the other thing we're doing is if people are don't have a connection with a banker, or maybe they bank at a place that doesn't do SBA loans, we have a list of kind of preferred lenders or ones that do more SBA activity and lending that we send out. And we also have a link that we send out too that has you can click on it, you can type in your zip code, and it'll show you the closest bankers that do the SBA lending that they could
that's cool.
go to for the PPP plan.
I think one of the things that you definitely represent is the kind of like a light, a beacon, out there. It's you hear a lot of doom and gloom, and you hear people saying, "Well, I need to get the money. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and I don't know where to turn." This is a resource. You and your whole department, statewide and across the country, actually, every state has this resource, and it's there for you to use, and it's free.
Yes, yeah, it's a free service. It's confidential. The good thing about it is, you're already paying through your tax dollars for the service.
Right.
So SBA, we're funded through our state colleges and our University of Nebraska system here. So it's already paid for. So you might as well utilize the service. What's interesting is we'll get one client and we'll help them out. And then we'll get somebody else and they'll say, well, I talked to so-and-so who talked to you and they said you helped. So I'm calling for help now. So it's kind of a chain reaction of the calls we're getting now. So, which is a great thing. People are sharing the word.
Yes. Especially a small community like this in Omaha. I know it's a big city, but it's still a small community. A lot of small businesses here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's for sure. And I know that the dollar, I can't even imagine what the dollar amount is.
Yeah.
We know what the big dollar amount, the trillion number, but just locally, dealing like our bank itself was like $130 million in funding and that's just one bank. That's, and not even one of the big banks.
Yeah.
Which is just so impressive that they're able to move this kind of money in such a short amount of time to go. I think it goes from the Treasury. Well, this one for the PPP program is one thing. And then you've got the SBA stuff on the other side too. That's incredible.
What's interesting about the PPP one is the funds actually come directly from the bank. So whatever funding the bank has for loans, they utilize those funds. Once those are used up and dried up, they can actually sell that loan package out. So the SBA, I've heard, is buying those back, and then there's a secondary market where people are purchasing those loans. The bank still services them, but they're able to kind of restock their loan supply. So that's kind of an interesting way.
It is. That is because it's like, while on one side you've got the people that are trying to find the funding for something, on the other side you have somebody who's looking to buy because it's an opportunity. And it all feeds back into itself. Which,
it's interesting.
Yeah, it is. That's great.
Yeah,
Is there?
I heard, Wells Fargo, and they had gone up and got online on last Saturday, and by Monday they had $10 billion in loans on the book.
Wow.
They're looking to the future.
It's astronomical.
Unbelievable.
And we have our the links to your organization. Last time you were on one of our episodes, we have the links there. We'll put them up there again because we just can't encourage people enough, small business owners, obviously, to click that link. If you're wondering, if you're questioning what you qualify for, maybe you've already gone through the process and have more questions, get to Tony and his group. And man, you guys are awesome for everyone.
Before we let you go, is there anything else you wanted to throw out there, or just give you a call?
I would say one of the main things is, don't wait. A lot of businesses are kind of saying, well, we've saved for rainy day fund. We're going to kind of wait and see how things go. I would encourage people, don't wait, take advantage of these programs while they're there. There's no guarantee that they'll last or if they'll be renewed. So just don't wait around. Take the steps, contact us, contact your local resources. Get the information together, but just don't wait around on it. I would encourage businesses to be proactive.
I think some people do wait because there's always that. Well, in other credit issues, you're afraid you're going to get dinged for doing some stuff, and this is an instance where you won't.
That's right.
Right. So get in there. Good deal.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Tony.
much, Tony.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me be part of the show. I appreciate it.
You got it.
It's the Nebraska Small Business Development Center with Tony Schultz.
And if you guys are watching this video online, you have a nice rack behind you.
What?
Got some deer antlers behind. If I was going to ask you what kind of deer that was, it's in like a den area.
I'm not looking at the monitor right now.
Yeah.
So Pat.
Yeah. Tony and I, we have special moments at the end of these videos.
Right.
Yeah, nice.
Those are mule deer, so
Perfect.
we like to do little mule deer hunting. So.
Very
You're
nice.
awesome, Tony. Thank you so
That's
much.
awesome. Have a great day, Tony.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
See you, buddy. Bye-bye.
Pat and JT Podcast, a Parkville Media Production.
Bonus.